3 spine-chilling true stories of sinister home intrusions that revealed unexplained horrors. Sarah's heart raced as she turned the corner into her peaceful suburb of Maplewood, New Jersey. The neighborhood looked serene, with pristine lawns and friendly waves that created an illusion of safety. But that night, as she returned home from a grueling 12-hour shift at the hospital, something felt different. The front door was slightly ajar. Panic surged through her. Was someone inside? Dismissing the creeping dread as exhaustion, she took a deep breath and opened the door, assuring her anxious children, Ben and Lily, that everything was fine. Later that evening, after bedtime stories and playful laughter around the dinner table, Ben's voice broke through the calm. "Mom, I saw a tall figure by the trees." Sarah chuckled, thinking it was just his imagination. But unease gnawed at her. Every night was fraught with anxiety. As toys went missing and whispers echoed through the halls, sleep slipped further away. Then the bathroom mirror revealed Sarah's worst fear-chilling words scrawled in her lipstick. "I see you." Terror gripped her heart. Was someone watching them? Each day blurred into another, fear creeping into her routine. She called Officer Daniels for help. "These things happen, ma'am," he said with a condescending smile. "Just lock your doors." Dismissed and feeling alone, frustration pulsed through her veins. She needed to protect her children. Desperation pushed her to rummage through dusty boxes in the attic. Old photos revealed stories of unnerving events from the past: disappearances, shadows in the night, whispers of a masked figure that haunted Elm Street. As she pieced together the past, the sense of security crumbled beneath her. Each clue felt like a scream begging for attention, a haunting history interwoven with her present. Determined, Sarah confronted her neighbors, but they avoided her gaze, sharing conspiratorial whispers. Why the silence? The answers clamored for release, but stayed firmly locked away. A late-night visit to the library unearthed a local legend about a figure cloaked in shadow, preying on those who overlooked warnings from the past. It was a tale her parents once whispered about, a spirit linked to betrayal, feeding off the neglect of parents who left their children vulnerable. The night air felt heavy as Sarah looked out toward the backyard, shadows creeping closer. Ben's small voice trembled as he called from the darkness. "Mom, I think someone is watching us." Panic surged, cold and suffocating. She rushed to the window and saw a figure retreating into the trees. Fear wrapped around her like a vice. What was happening? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With each passing moment, the creeping dread gnawed at Sarah, clawing to be acknowledged. She felt the shadows closing in, breathing a sense of foreboding. How much longer could she ignore the truth lurking just beyond her front door? What would happen next? Would she unravel the darkness that threatened to consume them all? The clock ticked ominously, and she knew time was running out. The haunting questions echoed in her mind. What if she was too late? The night stretched on, wrapping the house in an unsettling silence. Sarah paced through the dimly lit rooms, her breath shallow, heart racing. She glanced at the clock. Each tick felt like thunder in the air. Ben and Lily were asleep, blissfully unaware of the nightmare unfurling outside their fragile walls. Panic clawed at her throat. What if that figure had returned? What if they weren't safe? Returning to the window, Sarah peered out into the blackness. The trees loomed like dark sentinels, their twisted branches reaching out as if trying to draw her into their shadows. Just then, a soft thud echoed from the back door. Her body froze, pulse hammering in her ears. Someone know, something was here. With trembling hands, she reached for her phone. The screen lit up her lifeline in this encroaching darkness. But before she could dial 911, a whisper slithered through the air, chilling her to the bone. "Mom." It was Ben, his voice small and shaky as he padded down the hallway. "Ben, stay in your room," she cried, panic rising as she turned towards him. But it was too late. He stood there, wide-eyed and pale, pointing toward the kitchen. "The man is in the kitchen." Her heart dropped. Was he truly awake, or was it another trick of their minds? She needed to know. Silently, she crouched down to his level and whispered, "What do you see?" "He is wearing a mask." He is looking for something," Ben said, fear flickering across his face. Something curled in Sarah's stomach, an instinct more primal than fear. "We need to get out of here," she hissed, grabbing Ben's hand. Now. Before they could step away, the kitchen door creaked open, revealing shadowy movement. The figure loomed tall, its face obscured by darkness, and a twisted smile hidden beneath a mask. Sarah felt the air constrict around them, its grip tightening. "Stay back," she shouted, cradling Ben to her. The figure paused, its head tilting as if savoring their fear. This was no idle intruder. It was something more sinister. Her heart slammed against her ribcage as she and Ben backed away toward the stairs, desperate to find escape. But the creature edged closer, gliding rather than stepping, an unnatural motion that sent chills racing down her spine. It beckoned, an odd invitation that mingled terror with curiosity. Every instinct screamed to run, but something deep within her kept her rooted to the spot, waiting for a blinding revelation to strike. "Mom." Ben tugged at her sleeve, terror carving his voice. "What does it want?" The figure remained still, but its presence pressed down on them. A suffocating silence filled the air. Sarah's mind raced, recalling the stories she unearthed in the library, the spirit of betrayal feeding off the innocence of children. Was this the monster of the past, come back to reclaim its due? With sheer determination, she turned her back to the dark figure and pulled Ben toward the stairs, every instinct screaming for them to flee. They stumbled up the steps, hearts pounding, hands trembling, the shadows stretching after them. As they reached the second floor, Sarah glanced back, and for a moment, dread froze her in place. The figure stood, motionless, at the foot of the stairs, like a statue waiting. Its eyes dark, soulless pits seemed to swallow the light around it. "Where do we go, Mom?" Ben's voice quivered, shaking her from the trance. "Hold on tight," she said, summoning every ounce of courage she could muster. "We hide." They darted into the nearest bedroom, fumbling in the dark. Sarah's mind raced with thoughts of what they could do, how they could protect themselves. She pushed Ben beneath the bed, her heart racing with every creak of the floorboards. Suddenly, the door creaked open. Sarah held her breath, pressing her back against the closet door, praying it wouldn't find them. Silence stretched. Would it know they were here? Then, a low voice pierced the stillness. "I know you're in there," the dread returned with a vengeance. What have they awakened? Would they survive this haunting presence long enough to uncover the truth? The darkness was far from done, and as Sarah braced herself for the confrontation, she knew she had to unearth the past to survive the present. What secrets lay in store for them, and what kind of shadow had they drawn close? And then came the sound of footsteps, approaching. The footsteps were deliberate and slow, echoing through the empty hallway with a heavy weight. Each creak resonated in Sarah's chest as she pressed a hand to her mouth, stifling her impending panic. She could feel Ben's shallow breaths beside her, the warmth of his small body against her trembling hand grounding her. "Please, don't make a sound," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. The figure lingered for a moment outside the bedroom, shrouded in darkness. Sarah's heartbeat raced, a wild percussion that seemed to answer the ominous silence. What did it want? It had come looking for something or someone, and fear coiled like a serpent around her mind. For what felt like eternity, the house was still. Sarah glanced at Ben, his wide eyes reflecting terror. She wanted to reach for him, comfort him, but she knew they couldn't move. The figure had to be close, listening, waiting. Then, the doorknob rattled, a slow twist that sent a shudder down her spine. The door creaked open, the dark threshold expanding like a mouth ready to swallow them whole. Her breath caught as she recognized the familiar outline of a mask, distinct in its grotesque features. It was peering into the room, searching. Come out, wherever you are." Its voice was a low growl, slithering like smoke in the air. The mocking tones sliced through Sarah, each word sharp and raw. Suddenly, the wood beneath them creaked as if the very floorboards echoed their fear. An unseen force pulled at the edges of her mind. She had to resist. She couldn't let her child fall victim to this nightmare. Then, as if sensing her resolve, the figure took a step inside. The shadows danced around it, its form looming larger, blocking out the small slice of moonlight that dared to intrude. Sarah's desperation merged with rage. She couldn't permit it to take them. "Get away from us!" she screamed, surprising even herself. The words burst out, raw and primal. For a moment, the figure froze, surprised by her defiance. Such spirit, it replied with a twisted glee, and then it lunged. Intense fear shot through Sarah as she yanked Ben from beneath the bed and sprinted toward the far wall, desperate for anything that might help them. Her hands found the window latch, but it refused to budge, the darkness clinging to it like a vice. Behind her came the sound of a heavy breath, ragged and close. With a swift glance back, she saw the figure advancing, the mask distorted in the shadows. Panic clawed at her throat, engulfing her mind. A sudden thought sparked. She needed to distract it. "Ben, hide!" she shouted, pushing him towards a small closet nearby. "Now!" He hesitated, his eyes wide and frightened. "Go!" she urged, forcing him inside before slamming the door shut. Turning back, she faced the looming creature, panic pulling at her every instinct. "Why are you here?" she gasped, forcing herself to sound brave. The figure paused, tilting its head, as if savoring her fear. "History remembers, my dear. I'm here to collect what is due." "What do you want?" she shouted, desperation lacing her words. "You're past your truth," it replied, a cold smile stretching across its mask. "These walls have stories that want to be told." In that moment, her heart raced with dread. What past? What truth? As her mind spun, the figure took another step closer. Sarah took a deep breath, her fingers brushing against the window latch again. The air thickened, pressing down, and she realized she had to act quickly. "Wait!" she cried, a desperate idea flashing across her mind. "If I tell you the story, will you leave us alone?" It halted, intrigued. "Tell me, then," it hissed, the shadows expanding around it like a cloak of night. But in that suspended moment, the door creaked open again, and a light flickered from the hallway. Sarah felt a jolt of hope collide with dread. What if the figure turned to see the light? Or would it be a new danger altogether? "Ben!" she whispered urgently, knowing the time had come. The approaching light flickered uncertainly as Sarah faced the figure once more. "You're not going to take him," she shouted defiantly, feeling the weight of her fight. Yet, the true terror was what loomed beyond the door. And as she spun to confront whatever awaited them in the light, her heart thundered with the realization: escape was no longer guaranteed. What awaited them once the door swung open? The door sprang open, and the golden light washed over the room like a tidal wave, pushing back the shadows. For a brief moment, Sarah's heart surged with hope. Then it twisted into fear again as she saw the silhouette at the threshold. Mom? It was Oliver, her neighbor's son, his face pale and drawn. I heard screaming. What is going on? Get back, she yelled, the urgency spilling from her lips. Don't come in. But before she could grab him, the figure lunged forward, its mask twisting with a primal intensity. Oliver froze, eyes wide, as the shape connected with him. A guttural scream ripped through the air, sharp and piercing, echoing around them like a shattering mirror. Get away from him, Sarah screamed, pushing herself toward the intruder. Adrenaline surged through her veins, urging her forward even as her mind grappled with the impossibility of the scene. Oliver, barely 10, was struggling in the creature's grasp, his small body jerking against its unnatural strength. Such a good little boy, the figure crooned in that same sickly sweet voice. Always curious, always poking around. Fear bubbled in Sarah's throat, churning with desperation. Oliver's face was twisted in terror, and every inch of her screamed that she had to help him. What do you want? Let him go. The figure's head tilted as it regarded her, mocking her pleas with a grin that stretched unnaturally wide. You think you can save him? You can never save what has already been claimed. Sarah's heartbeat thundered in her ears. What have you taken? What do you want with us? Your truth, dear, it rasped. It's your turn to pay. And your child, well, he's just an easier target. A reminder? Impulsively, as if pulled by an unseen force, Sarah reached for the only thing that could possibly distract her own memories. I don't even remember, she cried, her voice trembling. I can't remember my past. The figure's eyes flared with interest. Oh, but I do. And I want to hear the stories. It released Oliver just enough for him to tumble to the ground, gasping for air. Mom! Oliver cried, scrambling away. Sarah's mind raced, 1,000 thoughts colliding. What stories? You're wrong. I'm not the monster. Just tell me what you want to know. I want the truths you locked away, buried under lies and forgotten shadows. Only then will we be free, it hissed, stepping toward her. In that moment of confrontation, the air shifted. The light behind Oliver flickered, caught in a fight of its own against encroaching darkness. Sarah could feel the weight of the past pressing down around her, and with it came the realization there were things hidden deep within her memory, weighted with guilt that pinched like icy fingers around her heart. Ben! She screamed toward the closet, but her little boy remained silent. She could feel the weight of his absence. You stay there. But what will you do? Oliver's voice quavered as he scrambled back, the fear spilling from him. I'll face it. We will not lose again, she vowed, though the certainty shook in her voice. The figure flicked its gaze toward the closet, then back to Sarah, a glint of excitement shining through the mask. So brave, are you ready for that truth? Are you ready for all the memories locked away? Panic surged anew. The walls felt like they were closing in, constricting around her. Sarah took a step back, instinctively shielding her son. Behind them, she sensed the shadows creeping ever closer. Sarah. Oliver's whisper was lost in the tension. Shadows twisted, and all she could see was the mask bearing down on them, waiting for her to break. No, please! Sarah cried, desperately searching for a way out. She had to confront her truth, her past. But what if doing so meant relinquishing everything she had left? The figure drew closer, its voice rasping. Submit, and I'll tell you the stories you crave, or fight me and lose everything that you hold dear. As the shadows chased the light away, Sarah felt the ground shifting beneath her, reality buckling around the resolve she had left. Would she allow the figure to dictate her fate, or could she finally uncover the truth that lay buried within? Yet, at that moment, she realized the true horror had not revealed itself yet. Another sound echoed in the distance, the low growl of something more sinister, something hungry, prowling nearer in the blackened corridors of the house. What else lurked in the depths of their shared past? What truths would emerge if she dared step into the abyss? The room twisted under the weight of the creature's presence. It leaned in, its breath a mix of decay and whispered secrets. Sarah could almost feel its longing, a hunger that went deeper than flesh. She glanced at Oliver, crouched low on the ground, his small frame trembling. She needed to protect him. Then came a shuddering crash from the far end of the house, a clattering noise that shattered the heavy silence. The figure paused, turning its head sharply towards the sound. In that moment of distraction, Sarah felt an overwhelming surge of determination. She risked a glance toward the closet, but the darkness behind it felt infinite, oppressive. What had happened to Ben? "Oliver, stay behind me," she commanded, instinctively draping an arm around him. The shadows was creeping and swirling, climbing the walls like fingers reaching for warmth. "You're right," the figure said, its voice a sickly caress. "Fear is such a warm blanket, but it won't save you." Sarah's heart raced. She could feel her blood pounding in her ears. "What have you done to my son?" she shouted, trying to fortify her trembling resolve with anger. "Such a pretty little child, so full of light and brightness. But he can't see what lurks in the dark, can he?" With the next breath, it lunged toward her. Sarah barely had time to react, throwing up a hand as she backed into the wall. But the specter halted again, drawn away by another deep growl echoing behind her. "Ben?" she called, her voice desperate. The growl grew louder, a low rumble that reverberated through the house. It wasn't just the figure now, something else was coming. The darkness shifted again in the corner of the room, twisting like a living thing. Sarah felt cold sweat bead on her forehead. "What is that?" she ventured, her voice trembling. "Your past casts a long shadow, Sarah," it hissed, a grating laugh escaping its lips. "But the future?" "Oh, the future will be full of surprises." Suddenly, a door splintered, and from the kitchen emerged a hulking form, hair matted and wild, teeth glimmering like knives in the dim light. The creature towering behind her was monstrous, muscle and sinew rippling beneath pale, mottled skin. It was like nothing she had ever seen. "Run!" she screamed, instinctively pulling Oliver to his feet. A half-second glance verified the figure was momentarily distracted, but they didn't have time. The creature in the kitchen lunged forward, growls deep and menacing, serrated teeth snapping dangerously close. They stumbled backward together, each step feeling heavier, the weight of dread hanging around them like a thick fog. "Mom!" Oliver cried, panic slicing through his small voice. "Trust me, Oliver," she yelled, urgency pushing her forward. Together they dashed down the hall, the footfalls of the beast heavy and relentless behind them. They reached the end of the corridor, heartbeats sinking a wild drum in the silence. Sarah's mind raced. The basement. It was a risk, but there might be a chance for them to hide. She pressed against Oliver, urging him down the narrow stairwell, darkness enveloping them. Hands trembling, she fumbled for the switch. Only the faintest glimmer of light pierced the gloom. The door slammed shut above them, but the growls echoed, growing more frantic, more determined. They were still coming. "It knows we're down here," Oliver whispered, his voice wavering. "It can't get in, not if we are quiet," Sarah insisted, but doubt gnawed at her insides. The weight of memories began to crawl back, horrible glimpses of what she had locked away. Was the memory of her past the key to escaping? A shuffling sound broke the silence, sending shivers through Sarah. Something was creeping down the stairs. Instinct kicked in once more, and she knew they had to act. Then, just as they prepared to find their escape, a nasty cackle rippled through the darkness behind them. "Where do you think you're running?" As the voice seeped into her bones, Sarah spun around, her heart thumping wildly. Holding her breath, she faced the shadow. What had she awakened doing this? Would she and Oliver have to fight against both the darkness of her past and the creatures lurking within it? The basement trembled with every breath. The truth was clawing its way back, and they weren't safe yet. Would the next revelation shatter their reality or lead them to salvation? The darkness pulsated around them, taut with the creature's presence. Sarah knelt beside Oliver, whose wide eyes mirrored the panic surging through her. They were trapped, cornered by shadows, and the sickening laughter that whispered through the basement. "Who are you?" Sarah rasped, her voice a frightened quiver. The form shifted and elongated in the gloom, almost non-human, a grotesque parody of life. "I'm everything you fear, Sarah, the devourer of light. And you've fed me well." There was a creeping malice in its voice, claws scratching against Sarah's sanity. Oliver's breath hitched next to her. The boy pressed closer, seeking reassurance. "Mom, I don't like this," he stammered. The thin light cast by the bulb flickered, sending shadows skittering across the walls, like little creatures escaping the very source of their light. "Stay close," she snapped, the command forced through clenched teeth. Her instincts screamed for action, yet the oppressive might of darkness gnawed at her courage. Before she could clarify their next move, a loud bang hammered against the basement door above them, rattling the frame and jolting them. "You think you can hide?" The figure crooned, deeper tones slicing through the wood with an awful ease. "I have your scent now." "Not in here," Sarah spat. "You can't fit." The bravado was flimsy, teetering on the edge of a cliff. Yet it was the only weapon left at her disposal, words that fell between terror and defiance. The laughter that followed was chilling, like the rasp of dead leaves in winter. "Oh, Sarah, fear is the essence of nourishment. Your past is a feast, and I'm starving." A strange yearning gripped her heart, and for the first time, Sarah felt it. An echo of horror echoed in her memories. Images flickered in her mind, days blurred by desperation, nights haunted by shadows that she had buried deep. "What are you?" she demanded, desperate to wrestle control from the chaos. "Something you forgot," it replied with sinister glee. The air around them thickened, wrapping like a vice around her. "You tried to suppress me, but I will always return. Your fear, your denial gives me strength." The door slammed against the frame again. A penetrating shriek rattled her bones, followed by an onslaught of splintering wood. Sarah flinched, shoving Oliver behind her with ferocity. "We have to go. Now!" The outer door gave way, revealing the shape of the creature from the kitchen, blocking any thoughts of escape. Less refined than the specter within, this one was raw and primal, its breath hot with decay, its bulging eyes reflecting their fear as hungrily as they glistened in the dim light. "Run, Oliver!" Sarah cried, and before she could fully process her command, she lunged forward. They burst into the small space under the stairs. This cramped darkness offered them a thin veil of concealment, but the reality of what lurked above felt like claws ready to shred their hope. The echoes of growls enveloped them, rhythmic and primal, growing closer. "Mom, what is happening?" Oliver whispered, trembling. She placed a finger on her lips, listening to the moment. The creature above was wrestling with shadows. She could visualize it prowling, eager to taste their terror just a heartbeat away. With a sudden shift, the other figure drew near, whispering maliciously, "Do you remember yet, Sarah? All you've tried to forget?" Panic surged through her as vivid flashes clawed at her mind, recalling eyes that used to bear kindness, and laughter that turned to screams. Faces she thought she had shut away. Was this creature feeding on the darkness of her memories? "Oliver, close your eyes." The urgency in her voice rang as a warning bell. But just as they cowered together, something caught her attention, a shimmering object near where they huddled, glinting like a sunken treasure. It sparkled with familiar warmth, yet its aura sent electric chills coursing through her veins as memory collided with reality. "Find it," the creature beckoned. "Perhaps it will lead you home." In that instant, trepidation mingled with desperate curiosity. But what if it was a trap? Could that glimmer be their salvation or the spark that ignited their doom? Sarah felt the air grow heavy, thick with dread, as the fragments of a once familiar past loomed closer. Could facing the truth within her shadows lead them to survival, or would it lead them to the abyss? With fear coiling around her heart, Sarah reached for the glinting light, ready to confront the darkness she had long buried. What awaited them not just in the shadows above, but in the depths of her own mind? The moment her fingers grazed the shimmering object, a shock coursed through Sarah's body, sending her heart racing. It felt warm, almost like a heartbeat of its own, pulsating against her skin. She could sense Oliver's eyes on her, wide and anxious, but in that instant, nothing else mattered. "What is it?" he whispered, his voice trembling like wind through autumn leaves. "I don't know," she breathed, tension coiling tight in her gut as she pulled the object closer. It was small, smooth, and shaped like a locket, yet the intricate design shone with an otherworldly glow. A whisper of familiarity flooded her, choking out the terror for just a moment. "Mom, please," Oliver's voice cracked, pulling her back into the present. With hesitant fingers, she opened the locket. A blinding light erupted from within, flooding the cramped space under the stairs and washing over the dark shadows that had clung to them. The creature's form shifted, writhing in the glow, its monstrous features distorting as if the light was burning away the edges of its reality. For a heartbeat, there was silence, a moment where dread and hope collided. But then, with a howl of rage, the darkness splintered. The laughter morphed into a furious roar, echoing off the basement walls. "You think you can escape?" it bellowed, the words dripping with venomous hate. The harsh light from the locket flickered, trembling under the creature's wrath. "Stay behind me," Sarah shouted, instinctively shielding Oliver. Her heart thundered in her chest, a wild drum keeping tempo with the rising terror. The shadows recoiled, but they didn't leave. They churned and twisted, moving like dark smoke, eager to return. "Your light won't save you, Sarah. Nothing will. You can't escape your fears." The voice was everywhere and nowhere, a cacophony that burrowed deep into her mind. She gripped the locket tighter, and in that moment, a surge of memories, long buried and forgotten, crashed over her like a tidal wave. The warmth of summer days twisted into chilling nights, memories of laughter soon foreshadowed by screams. Faces flickered before her, those she loved, lost, or abandoned. Each image sharp and biting, like fragments of glass pricking her soul. "Mom!" Oliver's desperate plea shook her from the deluge. The creature lunged, tendrils of darkness shooting toward them with an insatiable hunger, wrapping around her legs, dragging her down. "Feed me, Sarah. It's your fears that keep me alive," it howled, its breath a fetid breeze creeping into her lungs. "No!" Instinct took over. She raised the locket, the brilliant light flaring like a flare in the night sky. "You won't take him. I won't let you." In that moment of defiance, something sparked inside her. The fear that had clung to her for so long ignited into a blaze of fury. With one decisive movement, she thrusted the locket into the darkness creeping toward them, using it as a weapon against her journey through terror. The darkness shrieked, a sound that crawled under her skin. The light split the shadow, scattering it momentarily, but she knew it wouldn't last. Regaining her footing, she felt Oliver cling to her side, their eyes locked, fear dancing in his gaze. "Run!" she shouted, dragging him with her as they broke into the open space of the basement. The tendrils of darkness thrashed behind them, the creature's rage palpable in the air thick with dread. They raced for the far end, where another door led to the unknown, but safety felt like a distant hope. "What is happening? What do we do?" Oliver cried, panic laced in his voice, a reminder of everything that haunted them. "I don't know," she gasped, fighting to push forward, "but we can't stop now." The basement door rattled violently again. The sounds of splintering wood resonating through the air, a reminder that the creature was relentless. Its whispered threats curled around them, wrapping like a sinister embrace. Your past will always catch you, Sarah. You can't run from me. In that frantic moment, a new thought struck. Maybe the locket's light was their only chance. But was it enough to fend off the darkness? Could she confront the memories that fueled this creature, or would that lead to their destruction? Her heart raced, urgency clawing at her throat as they neared the door. She needed to decide. Was it time to face the shadows or flee deeper into the dark? As the door loomed closer, the choice hung heavy in the air, each heartbeat echoing with the weight of the terrible truth about to be uncovered. Would she find a way to banish the creature haunting her, or unleash an even darker horror? The door burst open just as the shadows lunged again, and Sarah steeled herself for whatever lay beyond. The door swung wide, revealing a short, dimly lit hallway that felt alive with whispering shadows. A single, flickering bulb dangled overhead, casting distorted shapes that danced along the peeling wallpaper. Sarah hesitated for a breath, the weight of the darkness behind them thrumming in her ears. "Mom, we have to go." Oliver's urgency pierced through her moment of doubt. With a sharp inhalation, she fell into the corridor, pulling him close by the hand. The walls seemed to close in, the air thick with the scent of mildew and decay. The glow from the locket illuminated only a small circle ahead, and the encroaching dark shuddered as they moved. "Where do we go?" he whispered between frantic breaths, eyes darting around them, as if the shadows could creep out and snatch him away. Anywhere but here. She didn't know if she was lying. The house felt like a labyrinth, each twist and turn a new horror waiting to be unleashed. In her mind, echoes of the creature's taunt spiraled like smoke. Your past will always catch you. Suddenly, the bulb flickered violently, plunging them into near-complete darkness before sputtering back to life. In that instant, a fleeting shape darted past. Was it an illusion or something else lurking just beyond the reach of light? A chill clawed its way down her spine. "Did you see that?" she barely managed, her voice strained. Oliver nodded, the terror in his eyes evident. "It's here, Mom. We have to hurry." She pressed on, adrenaline fueling every step. The hallway stretched long and oppressive. Sarah's heart pounded in sync with her frantic footsteps. Images flashed through her mind, her childhood fears, the shadows that had always lurked just outside her vision. Could this creature be one of those shadows, feeding on the remnants of her insecurities? Then, without warning, the walls began to close in. The space felt smaller, the air heavier. Panic surged. "This way!" she shouted, yanking Oliver toward an open door at the far end. The room beyond was a study, cluttered with dust-covered books and broken furniture, remnants of a life left behind. The window panes trembled with a gust of wind, howling like a banshee. All the while, the creature's growls echoed just outside the door they had fled, angry and insatiable. "Lock it," Oliver urged, eyes wide, his hand shaking. She slammed the door shut and fumbled with the heavy latch, urgency coursing through her. As she locked them in, she turned to find Oliver staring at something across the room. "Mom, look!" On the wall opposite them, a mirror stood, its frame ornate but dulled by age. Within it, Sarah could see something shifting, a shadow that didn't belong to her or Oliver. The reflection was darker than the shadowy room around them. It writhed and twisted, forming grotesque shapes, manifestations of her buried fears. "It's just a reflection," she shouted, desperate to reassure both him and herself, but she felt the locket's warmth grow dim in her grasp. "It's not just that. It's calling to me," Oliver stammered, stepping closer despite fear radiating from him. "No! Stay back!" she yelled, a shiver of horror flooding through her. As if sensing her distress, The shadow in the mirror thickened, spilling over the glass like ink. It reached out, tendrils stretching, eager to break free. "Feed me," it hissed in a chorus of lost voices. "I hunger for your memories, your grief." Sarah's heart raced anew. This was what the creature wanted, to bring forth everything she had tried to forget. The shuddering memories no one should witness. "Mom, we have to fight it," Oliver screamed, tears welling in his eyes, as the cold air snaked through the room, chilling them both to the bone. A deep desperation rose within her. Enough was enough. She raised the locket again, but this time it felt heavier, almost impossible to hold. "No more," she shouted. "You want to take him from me. You want to take my past." In that moment, the shadows lunged, a chaotic swirl of darkness erupting. The mirror cracked, spilling shards of reflected nightmares across the floor, each fragment revealing a glimpse of horror from her past, a fire, a scream, a haunting betrayal. "What now?" Oliver cried, terror coursing through his voice. "I don't know." The shadows swarmed, closing in around them, as the walls pulsated with dark energy. And then, in that cacophony of despair, a fleeting thought ignited within her. Could the locket actually heal these broken pieces, or would unleashing the truth consume both her and her son? The shadows lunged forward, and the room spiraled into chaos. Would she surrender to the dark voices of the past, or was there a way to reclaim their destiny? As Sarah and Oliver huddled together, the air crackling with tension, they braced for whatever horror awaited them at the precipice of truth. The darkness surged forward, racing towards them like a living thing. Sarah squeezed the locket tight, its warmth slipping through her fingers, as if it too feared the encroaching dread. Every heartbeat reverberated in her ears, a deafening drum announcing their impending doom. "Mom, close your eyes," Oliver shouted, but she couldn't look away. The shadows in the mirror twisted violently, flinging memories like shards of glass through the air. She wasn't prepared for what erupted from the fragments, realizations tearing through her mind with brutal clarity. The memories. They were alive, clawing at her from within the reflection. A face, twisted in anguish, that of a friend she had betrayed, a love lost to flame she once thought extinguished. Each shard bore the weight of buried guilt, and the relentless whispers beckoned her. "Face us, face your truth." "Oliver, we have to break the mirror," Sarah screamed, instinct driving her to action. She was fueled by despair, the adrenaline coursing through her veins, pushing her to fight rather than succumb. "No, it'll hurt us," Oliver cried, clutching his head. "Don't listen to them." But she did listen. They were right. The past needed to surface. The tendrils of darkness were reaching for her son, hungry and insatiable. They wanted her to feel that familiar wrench of guilt and pain, the emotions that had long since become her prison. "Get away from him," she roared, running forward. Everything inside her screamed to protect her child, to confront that which kept her shackled to fear. As she hurled herself at the mirror, she could hear a cacophony of laughter, a mockery of her defiance. The first physical blows smashed into the glass, fracturing it further. An explosion of cold light gushed forth, spiraling out in shards, like 1,000 aching memories being unleashed and leading the shadows to retreat for a moment. "Keep going. You can do it," Oliver cheered, his voice a fragile thread of hope woven through the chaos. With every hit, Sarah felt the pain of her decisions manifesting all around her, but she pressed on, fueled by determination. "This ends tonight." Each word propelled her, each scream a weapon against the darkness. With one final crash, the mirror shattered completely, chaos ripping into the room. Memories exploded forth, swirling around them like storm clouds. Shrieks of terror echoed as she was momentarily blinded by flashes of her past, faces lost, happiness stolen, the raw anguish of abandonment. And then came the silence. In the stillness, Sarah fell to her knees, breathless and trembling, the shards of the mirror littering the floor. She felt Oliver wrap around her. "Mom, we did it," he whispered, his voice shaky with disbelief. But a chilling movement behind her cut through the moment of reprieve. The broken pieces of the mirror began to swirl together, darkness swirling to reform something new. A longer, more fearsome shadow rose, towering against the remnants of shattered memories, its form obscured and twisted. "You cannot escape your history," it hissed, the very walls trembling with its disdain. "You are powerless against your own reflection." Panic clawed at her lungs. "We need to run," Sarah gasped, pulling Oliver closer as they began to inch away from the looming, grotesque figure. But the creature blocked the exit, its shadowy arms stretching into the very fabric of the room, grasping at the air like claws. "Too late, child." The creature's voice oozed malice. "You can't hide from what you've done. You must face it, or it will consume you whole." As dread washed over them, Sarah felt her heart tighten. Each shudder of fear echoed the truth she had long concealed. Was there really no escape from the very shadows that danced between memories? "Mom, what do we do?" Oliver's voice was nearly drowned out by the vibrant storm of whispers surrounding them. "Hold on tight," she shouted, the locket still clasped in her palm, pulsing like a heartbeat. It wasn't over. Maybe, just maybe, it could help them fight back. And then, just as she started to gather her resolve, she heard a terrifying, familiar sound approaching, a relentless scratching, clawing at the door they had locked moments ago. "What now?" she breathed, eyes wide with mounting dread. A voice, softer but too close, seeped through the door. "Let me in, Sarah, I've come to help." The shadows quivered in response. But was it really her voice? As she stood there, heart pounding, every instinct screaming that there was no turning back, Sarah knew now that they were out of time. Secrets would splinter, and truths would claw their way back. In that moment, she had to decide. Would she open the door and risk everything, or would she let the past and its monstrous echoes consume her completely? The choice lay before her, the shadow at her back, and the haunting voice grew louder. With her heart pounding against her ribs, Sarah's breath came in shaky gasps as the voice on the other side of the door persisted. The shadows thrummed around her, their darkness pulsating with the tension of the moment. "Who are you?" she managed to croak, forcing herself to confront the possibility of confronting everything that had haunted her. "It's me, Sarah. It's your brother. I can help," the voice called, laced with an urgency that sent chills racing through her. The memories flashed laughter, sunlight, and ultimately, a terrible loss that had left nothing but silence in its wake. Her brother, long gone but not forgotten, lingered just beyond the door. "Stay back," she commanded Oliver, who clung to her side, wide-eyed and trembling. "It could be a trick." "Mom, it sounds real," he urged, his voice trembling with fear and hope. "Maybe it's true. What if it can help?" The relentless scratching echoed again, threatening to draw them into a cycle of despair. "You cannot take us. We are stronger together," Sarah shouted defiantly at the towering shadow, trying to bolster her own wavering resolve now tangled with doubt. "Mom," Oliver whispered, his eyes glistening with tears, "we have to make a choice. What if this is our chance?" Sarah's mind raced. Silently, she counted the moments of her past choices made in haste, moments lost to fear, shadows that had clamored for her attention until they became impossible to ignore. The locket pulsed in her palm, warm and alive, as if urging her toward a resolution. "What if opening the door brings more danger?" she questioned, grappling with the relentless pull of her memories and the gnawing instinct to protect her child. "Don't let it win." The monster looming behind her seemed to respond to her indecision, growing larger and more menacing. "Your past is here, Sarah. It will always haunt you unless you face it. Open the door." The voice from the door called again, softer this time, filled with sincerity. "I will not let you down, Sarah. I promise, just trust me." With a deep breath, Sarah stepped back as the decision loomed ever closer. Memories flashed through her mind, the laughter, the love, and like poison thorns, the pain of betrayal, loss. She took a breath, her fingers tightening around the locket, and in that moment, she felt the weight of generations past upon her shoulders. "Are you ready?" she whispered to Oliver, her unwavering determination rekindled. In that heartbeat, she understood. The moment had come. No more shadows, no more fear. She lunged to the door, throwing it open wide. The light from the hall spilled in, battling the darkness that loomed, ready to consume her. There he stood, her brother, looking just as she remembered. He wore the familiar warmth of family, a gentle smile, and yet behind him hovered unshakable shadows. "Sarah," he said, arms outstretched, but before he could draw closer, the dark creature surged. "No!" she shouted, lifting the locket high. "We will not be your victims." The locket blazed with light as if fueled by her defiance, illuminating their surroundings in a blinding glow. The shadows recoiled, rage twisting through them as they thrashed against the brightness. The deeper darkness, that which had clung to her heart all these years, clawed at the edges, desperate for its claim. But now she finally saw what they represented. "Face your truth." The shadows hissed, and as they swirled chaotically, her brother's face remained steady, a beacon amidst the turmoil. "Together, we are stronger than every fear." Boldness surged through Sarah, bolstered by the love for her brother and her unmistakable will to protect Oliver. "We take back what is ours," she shouted, pressing the locket into the darkness. Light burst forth, cascading over the shadows, driving the malevolence away. The moments, the memories, they began to rise, spitting into the air like flickering fireflies. As the locket shone brighter, the creature shrieked, its form contorting in agony, battling against the overwhelming waves of light that swallowed it whole. "Mom, look!" Oliver cheered, his fear gradually replaced by wonder. The darkness twisted and flipped, eventually unraveling, revealing fragments of the past moments of happiness shared, love that lingered. With each pulse of the locket, each flicker of light, Sarah felt the weight of her long-held fears lift, the pain of betrayal slide away into the void. "You're free," she screamed, drawing in Oliver and her brother. "We can break the cycle." As the creature began to dissipate, the shadows receded, clawing at the air, but they polluted nothing. A silence settled where terror once dwelled. The corners of her mind felt lighter. She was finally breaking the chains. But memories did not vanish, they transformed, shaping into something new, warming her heart, filling the voids they had once consumed. The weight of fear and loss abated. The truth poured in, illuminating her soul. Together, hand in hand, they stepped into the light, her brother's familiar laugh echoing in her ears, love once more intertwined with every heartbeat. In their embrace, darkness surrendered finally vanquished. As Sarah looked around at the dawn breaking through the windows, she breathed in hope, warmth, and freedom. They had faced their darkest fears. No more should they live in shadows. The past was a part of them now, but it would no longer dictate their future. "Let us go home," Sarah declared, a smile breaking upon her face as they stepped forward, ready, willing, and alive together. As you gather your thoughts, don't forget this crucial moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm, and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the big ending. You need to share this video with at least 5 friends who need this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Your voice matters.